The beast. We've cornered him. Draw your weapons. Prepare yourselves. Charge!
Welcome to the Raiders Confessional, the podcast for all things raiding in the World of Warcraft.
How's it going, Raiders? This is TRC, Episode 5. My name is Ryan. I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Dan and Cole. How's it going, Dan and Cole?
Hello.
Hello.
Also joining us today, as we say on the other show I do, my friend Mike Compadre is my co-host on Blizzard Umbrella, Dusty. How are you today, Dusty?
What is up?
So for those of you joining us that also listen to the other show, I'm sure you recognize the voice. For those of you that do not listen to the other show, that is Dusty Porter. He is my co-host. He is the brains behind the operation over at Blizzard Umbrella that has kind of brought me into this realm. So I felt it fitting with this new content release to kind of bring him on the show and let him kind of talk about what his thoughts are on the new raid. This is going to be a first look discussion today on the show of Tomb of Sargeras. And so for those of you that may not know, I will certainly let him talk about that here in a minute. Dusty does not participate in a raiding guild of any sort. He's more of your casual player. He does a lot of LFG, LFR. He comes with us on Sundays when he can get some time. So I kind of felt that it was a good idea to bring him on to let him discuss his feelings about it, because Dan and Cole and I are probably going to have some different opinions on more of the hardcore front, seeing as we are part of a mythic raiding guild, and Dusty is more of kind of just there for the experience type thing. So that's kind of, I brought him on. Hopefully we can get some good discussion going today. But before we do that, I'd kind of like to go around the table here as usual to kind of discuss what we've all been up to. Cole, why don't you go ahead and lead us off? What have you been up to in game lately?
What have I been up to in game? I guess leveling my warlock, gearing him out. Trying to decide if I want to make the switch over, since the class I'm currently playing is kind of a bummer. But
your class just got some changes, though, did they not?
Yeah, but it's not like, I mean, they're not significant changes or changes in the way I play at all. I did run some sims on some new talent builds that, you know, the Demon Hunter Discord has been talking about, and they're kind of strange, and it does offer, I guess, a new playstyle for the class, but overall, I don't know if it's a fun playstyle. I guess it's more, I mean, I could go into the details of it, but been trying those out on the target dummy. Not really liking the style. Going into Tomb, I haven't really seen a progression in like my DPS as opposed to other classes. I feel like they have jumped, 100 K higher than I have without changing gear, which is kind of a weird feeling. So yeah, that's just, leveling up other characters or gearing them out, trying to get class mounts. That's pretty much all I've been up to.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you know as well as I do, as the other two guys in the show today, that a lot of these changes are probably not in any sort of form of permanency, right? These changes are all probably going to change here either inside of tonight, tomorrow, the next day, or inside of 2 weeks. I think, with the first drop of any content, we're going to see a lot of tweaks to classes as things kind of fall into place, right?
Yeah, and I mean, in general, I don't necessarily feel Tomb, and we'll get into this later, is melee friendly, just with the way the encounters are designed. But they're still fun encounters, so once we talk about that, I can...
Right. Now, that being said, there are some melee-friendly fights inside of the raid, right? Because I know Kill Jane right now, there's a lot of high melee parses.
Yeah, I think Kill Jane, maybe Maiden, to an extent.
Sure.
Dan, what about you, man? But
Yeah. What have you been up to, Dan? What have you been doing in game?
First, I want to come to Cole with a proposal. I'll gladly switch roles with you. You can tank for me, and I'll become melee DPS. Love to
I'll
do
tank
it.
on my Vengeance Demon Hunter and out DPS my Demon Hunter.
Well, now, I am currently trying to figure out what I'm going to play for our alt runs, in which I'm working on my final tank, Blood DK, which I've never been a fan of it. I'm kind of interested in the changes in Legion, but still up in the air. Kind of played roulette with every one of my tanks, and the only one I truly still like to be on is the monk. But as you guys like to say, every time I hop onto another tank, I'm trying to find what I want to main for this tier, but it's not happening, guys. It's not. Other than that, wife was away for the weekend, so I actually got to do several Mythic Pluses instead of my normal one and done. Uh, Nothing really changed here.
Yeah. As for myself, I've been working on getting the Warlock up to speed. I think I'm sitting around 908 item level now. I had some moments where I kind of had to step away from the guild for the afternoon during the raid yesterday. So I went in today and kind of made up some ground and killed some of the bosses the guild was able to go in and kill last night. But other than that, I've been kind of dabbling in some other games, but mostly just focusing on kind of the guild stuff off the raid times and just playing my Warlock. So enough about me though. Let's talk to the man of the hour, the guest for the day. Dusty, what have you been up to in the World of Warcraft lately?
Oh man, all kinds of stuff. Been really busy. Like Cole, I too have been trying to level up some of my other characters. The end goal, obviously, is to get as many of the class mounts as possible. And for me, Cole, I don't know if you're enjoying this as well, but the stories as far as the class hall experience for all of the ones that I've done so far have been a lot of fun. Speaking of the Hunter, I really enjoyed that one. The Demon Hunter is good. I'm in the middle of that one right now, and I actually did the Warlock artifact quest and the Death Knight, no, not Demon Hunter, Death Knight as well. So I got them to the point to where I can start doing some invasions on them. So been doing a lot of that, trying to get the class hall stuff done. Knocked out a bunch of LFR on 2 characters for the first wing that came out yesterday on the Mage and the Hunter. So had a lot of fun doing that. So I'm sure we're going to touch on the TOS stuff here shortly, so I won't really stick onto that. And then been really diving into the Necromancer in Diablo. I know that has nothing to do with WoW, but have really been enjoying that a lot. That class is super fun. The abilities, they've done something with that class, and they've just really made something that I think I'm going to enjoy probably for a couple of seasons here in the next few months. So that's really all I've been doing. I would like to say to Ryan and the guys here, Cole and Dan, I listen to the show every week. Really enjoy it, coming from a casual person. Ryan called me the brains and a casual all in one breath, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. I guess I will. I'll figure that out once we get off the call and see if I'm mad or yeah, I'm not sure yet. So, but I really do appreciate the invite to be able to come on the show, and I enjoy podcasting myself, and cannot wait to talk with these guys this afternoon about some rating stuff.
Well, I'm glad you said all of those things because I think that's a perfect point where we can kind of segue into kind of letting everybody know who you are and where you come from, because, you mentioned playing some Necromancer, you mentioned being casual and the brains, and all of the above. So why don't you go ahead and let everybody know that's listening, what you and I do over at the other podcast, what you do on some of your other creative stuff, and just kind of who you are, your history of gaming, and where you've come from to now.
Sure, kind of stuff. Sure. I promise you I will not bore you guys. I will keep this short and sweet.
We want
I
to
promise.
know you.
We're timing you. I'm looking at the clock right now.
I want to know you. Well, a little bit about me. As Ryan said, my name's Dusty. I'm a full-time content creator, not necessarily just podcaster. I have a YouTube channel called Technology Guru. I'm also a voice actor. I do a lot of voice work over on, started on Fiverr, but I'm kind of going away from Fiverr now, doing more work on other websites, and I've got a lot of clients there as well. So I also do voice work for different companies. I edit different people's podcasts and do a lot of audio production outside of the shows that I do. But the main show for me, other than the Blizzard umbrella, which is the fun show that I get to do every week where Ryan and I get to talk about all of Blizzard's games. I had an idea about a year and a half ago where I was like, man, I really love Blizzard's games. I love what they're doing. I play most of them except for StarCraft. Sorry, StarCraft. And I was like, you know what? I want to do a podcast about it, but I couldn't. I tried doing it myself, and it just wasn't as fun. I wanted someone to banter with, someone to joke around with, and someone who I could bounce ideas off of. So I put some feelers out there, ended up connecting with Ryan, and so glad that I did. He and I just gel so well. We've gotten along since day one. It's been such a blast to work together with Ryan, to kind of see him grow in the process of content creation as well. So again, I know I say this a lot on our show, not to get too romantic, but Ryan and I have a good friendship for people
Ryan, I love you.
for people who have not known each other for as long as we have. And then the other main podcast I do is called YouTube Creators Hub, where it's basically a show where I interview content creators every week. I'm very proud of the fact that I've been consistent for almost 2 years now, and as a podcaster, that is something that I take pride in. That every week I have a piece of content ready, and as Ryan knows, this is a lot of work, and putting in the time to do that is, you do have to stay consistent if you want to grow an audience, and you have to not get frustrated. So I love what I do. It's so much fun to be a part of what I'm doing, but it's just such a new element to be able to talk video games, and I can't wait tonight to. Also, I'm from the Atlanta, Georgia area, so if you can't tell from my accent,
Atlanta.
I am a Southerner. So I know these guys. We got Ryan all over the place, and Dan and Cole. I don't know where you guys are at the moment, but I'm representing the South. So that's a little bit about me.
I think we draw a big circle right up Highway 35 on over to New York and down to Georgia.
Connecticut. I'm the odd man out in the north.
Yeah,
You would take I-10 in my case.
I-10, yeah.
Yep.
Well, it depends whether you're coming north or you're going east.
Well, I'm going east, bro. Make the circle.
Well,
Yeah, he's coming out to Connecticut.
So I guess he's going to go over to Georgia on up and then save me for
go
last.
Go up one to New York, right?
Knowing you, you'd probably rent a car and just fly straight back to Texas after New York and skip Iowa, right?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. What's in Iowa?
What is in Iowa? What is in
nothing.
Iowa? That's what I ask myself.
A lot of corn and soybeans and pigs and
listen, here's the
rolling.
deal. I think Ryan owns one shirt. It's that Iowa State shirt. I mean, I don't know if he owns any other shirts. I really don't know. It's amazing to me that he keeps it clean. I don't know.
It's my podcasting shirt, Dusty. I just put it on. I hang it over my chair and I put it on whenever the camera turns on. So most of the time, otherwise, I'm just sitting here in my skivvies,
That's what I kind of worry about.
I'm surprised you don't have your A&M shirt on. I guess you've abandoned them.
It's dirty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
His roommate hasn't done the wash.
yeah, my roommates haven't done the wash. Damn roommates,
Come on, roommates.
So let's kind of get going here. Dusty, you're the guest, so I feel like you should have honors. The purpose of today's show, well, actually, I should step back. Before we start today's show, as you guys have heard, Dusty's here joining us today. You've heard where he's come from. You kind of know what we've all been up to in game lately. And for those of you who might be joining us for the first time today, the last 4 episodes we've done, the first show we did, we kind of introduced the whole mantra of the show, what we're about, what we're going to be doing moving forward. And kind of what we're going to be focused on. And then the following 3 episodes 2 through 4, we did a 3-part series on what goes into being a progression raider in the World of Warcraft. And we started with how do guilds kind of start themselves up? What do they do to prepare to get into raiding, that kind of stuff. And then the second episode, or the second part of that series, which would have been episode 3, we talked about, how do you deal with being in an actual progression raid? So how do you deal with progression? How do you deal with coming up against walls, overcoming those obstacles, that kind of thing. And then the last episode was, what do you do after you finish raiding one piece of content and you're waiting for the next one? So like I said, we covered it from beginning to end. They're really good episodes. I feel like, I know a lot of the feedback we've been getting from people who've listened to the episodes is really good. So I would definitely invite those of you joining us the first time today to kind of take a step back and listen to those episodes, that kind of stuff. And, you as well, provide us with any feedback you think. We've also, what's kind of started this episode that I brought Dusty onto here for today. We've gotten some feedback from some of you listeners out there requesting some more raid specific type content. And so we're certainly going to do that there. Moving forward, we have we have a healer episode lined up. I've got a mythic Gul'dan killed healer coming on in the show. I've got some tanks from another mythic guild coming on for a tank episode. I've got a ranged DPS lined up, and I'm working on a melee DPS. And then from there, we're just going to keep moving forward with more specific type content that you guys are looking for. So if you guys have any requests or suggestions, please let us know. But that being said, we'd like to kind of move forward with today's topic of the first look at Tomb of Sargeras and what everybody's thoughts are, that kind of stuff. And Dusty, you are the guest today, so you have honors, my friend. You've had a limited personal experience in there, but you have had some experience. I know you've watched some of our guild streams and stuff like that. What are your thoughts here?
First, I want to say this. I want to say that, number one, I'm a little nervous this afternoon because you guys are all heroic and mythic raiders, and I am the casual of the group. So you guys, please don't judge me, okay? Do not throw fruit at me if I don't know terminology correctly. I love the story, and I love the experience and the aesthetic of the raid. And I'm actually, as Ryan knows probably more than anybody, I am trying to improve as far as getting into maybe some more serious raiding, maybe not consistently, but being able to dive into normal without worrying about people getting angry and cussing at me and saying really mean things about my mom. So with all of that being said, I will say that I have pretty extensive, I guess you would say, experience with TOS so far as in comparison to other raids up to this point. With Tomb, I'm going to tell you guys, I've like I said, I've dove into normal the first day that it was available. I've done LFR twice. And again, I know LFR really doesn't mean you've done the raid, because even I know going in there with both of my characters, all of the mechanics are stripped down. There's nothing there. A lot of times you're dealing with just absolute awful people. Both of my two runs this time has been an extremely positive experience. Everybody was very communicative. Everyone was really nice to people. They were trading gear. It was a very, very good experience. As far as the bosses go and the mechanics and the aesthetic and the story of the raid itself, I am absolutely, I think, coming away from Nighthold. Not that I didn't like Nighthold. As Ryan knows, Suramar is the bane of my existence. Anything related to Suramar or Ancient Mana, I don't want to hear about it. The Withered, they can just go. I don't want them. I don't want to see them anymore. And I think because Nighthold reminded me, and it's not against people who like that, that's fine, but getting into Tomb and just seeing the aesthetic, even though it is the fell green that we've been so accustomed to this expansion and last, I really enjoy the mechanics, especially the second boss going into that other room, soaking up the orbs and then coming back out. I really enjoy that mechanic. Also, being able to watch people like Ryan and Dan as they stream, killing some of the later bosses of the raid, all the way to kill Jaden and whatnot. Being able to see some of those really new and cool mechanics that the new mechanic that KJ has, where they call it fog, but basically just blacks the room out. That was such a fun mechanic to watch, and just overall, I don't know. I'm excited to kind of just sit back and hear what you guys think about it, because you guys are deep into this thing now. But that's kind of my first impression thus far.
Yeah, and I gotta say, Dusty, I think there's some valid statements there for you. Because you and I have been doing the Blizzard Umbrella podcast for, I think I added up the time. We've been doing a little over 6 months now. We've got 22, 23 episodes under our belt on that show. And it's the brief time I've spent with you and getting to know you and kind of spending time inside the digital realm. You've come a long way, and you, like you said, you've been working hard and kind of trying to experience the raid on a more expansive level. And I would say you have, you've come to, I think, one raid with us on Sundays, and they're planning to try and come further. And I know you've been watching the streams, stuff like that. So I'd say there's some validity there. And kind of again, I know you feel like you're kind of on a foot back from us with what this show is about, but I would argue otherwise, because the whole purpose of me bringing you on the show today is Dan and Cole and I come from very one kind of focused perspective towards,
Driven.
Yeah. That's definitely a large motivation behind the content and how we approach it. But
I'm not driven.
yeah. of the three of us, he's dragged. But not everybody that listens to the show is going to be in a mythic guild. They might be in a normal guild, they might be in a heroic guild, or they might be casual LFRs, LFR heroes who might think that someday they might want to jump into the more progressive side of things, or just find it interesting to hear what goes on with some of the more progressive content. And I like to have some of the more casual perspectives as well, because you are probably going to notice things that we may not. Like Dan and I, when we're doing these raids, I'm looking at my DBM timers, I'm looking at the raid frames, I'm looking at anything and everything going on to make sure our group is being as successful as they can. And I think I've probably, honestly, in Nighthold, I've been able to pan my camera around maybe 5 times, and most of the time it was an LFR, to take in the aesthetics of the Star Augur fight, because most of the time I'm looking at raid frames, I'm making sure people are with their stat groups, that kind of stuff, And so for you, being a bit more of a casual hero, you can certainly talk more to how things look, how fun they are, that kind of stuff, So I think there's some validity for you being here today, in my opinion.
Well,
I
I
alt-Z during that
appreciate it.
What's that, Cole?
I alt-Z during that fight. That's it.
Yes, yeah, Cole does. He basically
do.
alt-Zs and then hits print screen a lot.
Yep.
At least you get to pan around at least 5 times. I could look at boss scratch the whole time, so I don't really get to see the raid.
Yeah, actually, I think Dusty may have done more than I have already. So I'm the cash on this call.
There we go. Now the truth is coming out, people.
Yep.
All right, I
I'm
want it to
cash.
be recorded right now.
He's hardcore.
There you go.
In the spirit of keeping things contrasting here and dynamic, Dan, like you said, you tend to be staring at the boss genitalia quite a bit. What are your first thoughts of the raid here, being in a tanking position?
It's actually been quite relieving. This raid for me, it feels like a homage to Black Temple and Oldar combined in one. There's a lot of aspects that play on both parts. The actual environments, interacting with them is quite fun from my standpoint, instead of just staring at boss balls the whole time. Because, oh, I got 5 stacks taunt. Okay, now I swivel around, look at his ass for a little while. It's not that fun. But when I have like mini jobs of, oh, I'm at 70 energy, let's go down, taunt swap, keep the maiden on the pylon, all those different things, it's actually quite exciting for me. And it's a nice change of pace, and I hope that 7.3 will actually keep some of the same content as well with the environmental stuff.
Yeah. Well, I would agree with that. I know a lot of our strategies and focus in that respect have been more involved with the tanks than what we've been used to with our group up to this point. So I would definitely have to tend to agree with you there. So, moving forward here, Cole, before you inevitably make the switch to ranged,
Back to range? Yeah.
yeah. As a melee DPS, I know you said you don't feel like the raid is in favor of melee right now, and there may or may not be some truth to that. I think, disregarding that and more just kind of general thoughts, what are your thoughts here on the raid first look?
Actually, I enjoy the raid. The bosses have been fun to do. They're not as challenging as Nighthold was, I think, starting, but I think that may be a product of where we've come as a guild. The raid is when we did normal mode, it was a lot easier than normal Nighthold, but I think getting into heroic, now downing bosses, and then potentially pushing to mythic, I feel like these fights are going to just continually impress me, if that makes sense, with the mechanics that they've already introduced in normal and heroic mode. I can't wait to see the mythic ones, and that is something that I haven't really done before from other raids.
So that's a change of tone for you.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
maybe it is the bosses, I'm not sure, but it actually feels like we're accomplishing something with the story. Maybe that's what it is.
I think we got to get Cole checked out. I think he's sick. He's saying some unbelievable things.
I know, right? But
I'm going back casual. I'm sorry.
I would have to agree with you, though, and this is something I would have to agree with you, Cole, because this is something Dusty and I talked about in one of our more recent episodes over at Blizzard Umbrella. This is, in effect, essentially the beginning of the end of what we've been fighting against for 10 plus years now.
Yeah.
Right? And
1,000 years.
Yeah, maybe in WoW timeline here, but I mean, thinking all the way back to, like Dan was saying, Black Temple or even Vanilla, like we've been fighting against the Legion. The Legion have been, in the background, if not at the forefront, since day one.
Yep.
So this could very well be the end of the Legion, and we're on to the next big thing. So, yeah.
The Void.
But yeah, so far you're liking the raid. You're more excited than usual to get into the more difficult difficulties. Other than that, what are some of your other thoughts here?
I guess the trash isn't as bad as Nighthold, except for in a few sections. What is that one boss called? Desolate Host. That trash leading up to the Desolate Host. Oh man, that gets real annoying.
Garbage.
And then the
Lizard
run
was a
back if you
troll.
die or your whole raid dies. Yeah, but really there haven't been annoying packs like that that we saw in Nighthold, getting up to Botanists for one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm enjoying it. It is real green, so I know you like that.
It is really green.
I'm gonna take it in while I can, because I know at some point we are going to do away with the fell green, and I'm gonna be sad. But I will like it for the time being, as much as I can.
We got one more patch, I guess, with green. So
Yeah, and then I'm betting we're on to Old Gods Purple. So
yep, purple and black.
Yeah, no, as for myself, I'm really liking the raid today. The guild yesterday went on to kill Jaden and started on a heroic progression. And I went in today to get my kill. So I officially now have, along with the rest of the guild, have done the entire raid all the way through. And I gotta say, I really enjoy it. Like Dusty said, the Kill Jaden fight with the new mechanic there, it's pretty neat. And it can be a little bit challenging if you're not prepared for it, which we will go into here soon. But for me personally, like I said, I really like the raid. I do, as well as Dan, feel like there is some throwback and feel, and nostalgia towards BT days. Like I was telling Dusty, to me, when you walk into that giant big room and you see Illidan and Khadgar and Velen and all the story-centric NPCs standing there, I don't know. I think it's really cool. I like the overall look of the raid. I think they could have made the raid a little bit smaller so some of the runbacks aren't terrible. But from my overall impression, I really like the fights. I like the aesthetics. The entire thing looks really cool. So that being said, I'd like to kind of run down real quickly and through each and every boss. So for any of you guys listening that haven't had a chance to get into the raid and really want to avoid any sort of spoilers, this would be the point. I'd say it's probably in your best interest to hit the pause button, come back after you've had a chance to get in the raid for yourself. But to kind of just get rolling here, what are Cole? Maybe we'll start with you here. What are your thoughts on the Goroth fight and that kind of stuff?
So Goroth, I like it as a first fight of the instance. I know we had Scorpion for Nighthold, and Nathendra for Emerald Nightmare. But this one feels like a good introduction to the whole instance. And by saying that, I mean, I know it can be melee friendly if you just stay on the boss and ignore mechanics. Normal and heroic, you can do that. Mythic, I'm sure you can't. But the whole, I guess, concept of, move behind these pillars, it's been done before, but in this fight, I think it's done well. Yeah, that's my first initial impression.
Yeah, and I guess, Dusty, what about you? I know this is one of the fights you have personally done.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think coming from my end, the mechanics behind the boss itself are very simple, and I can see how and why it is the first boss in the instance. It has enough mechanics to make it raid worthy, I guess you would say. But as far as like the difficulty of those mechanics, I mean, it's fairly simple. Just stand behind the big spikes when they come up and don't get hit by the goo, and you're pretty much okay. And I like it a lot. I like the look of the fight, and kind of like Cole said, I think it's a great introduction to the raid.
A nice little warm up for the mechanics to come further down the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Dan, I kind of like to get your feeling here. I think, like you said, in this raid, there's a little bit more of, knowing you'd probably rent a car and just fly straight back to Texas after New York and skip Iowa, right? Not much. A lot of corn and soybeans and pigs and rolling. It's my podcasting shirt, Dusty. I just put it on. I hang it over my chair and I put it on whenever the camera turns on. So, because most of the time, otherwise, I'm just sitting here in my skivvies, you know. It's dirty. So, well, yeah, my roommates haven't done the wash. Those damn roommates, you know. So let's kind of get going here. Dusty, you're the guest, so I feel like you should have honors. The purpose of today's show. Well, actually, I should step back before we start today's show. As you guys have heard, Dusty's here joining us today. You've heard where he's come from. You kind of know what we've all been up to in game lately. And for those of you who might be joining us for the first time today, the last 4 episodes we've done, the first show we did, we kind of introduced the whole mantra of the show, what we're about, what we're going to be doing moving forward. And kind of what we're going to be focused on. And then the following 3 episodes 2 through 4, we did a 3-part series on what goes into being a progression raider in the World of Warcraft. And we started with how do guilds kind of start themselves up? What do they do to prepare to get into raiding, that kind of stuff? And then the second episode, or the second part of that series, which would have been episode 3, we talked about, how do you deal with being in an actual progression raid? So how do you deal with progression? How do you deal with coming up against walls, overcoming those obstacles, that kind of thing? And then the last episode was, what do you do after you finish raiding one piece of content and you're waiting for the next one? So like I said, we covered it from beginning to end. They're really good episodes. I feel like I know a lot of the feedback we've been getting from people who've listened to the episodes is really good. So I would definitely invite those of you joining us the first time today to kind of take a step back and listen to those episodes, that kind of stuff. And, you as well, provide us with any feedback you think. We've also, what's kind of started this episode that I've brought Dusty onto here for today. We've gotten some feedback from some of you listeners out there requesting some more raid specific type content. And so we're certainly going to do that there. Moving forward, we have we have a healer episode lined up. I've got a mythic Gul'dan killed healer coming on the show. I've got some tanks from another mythic guild coming on for a tank episode. I've got a ranged DPS lined up, and I'm working on a melee DPS. And then from there, we're just going to keep moving forward with more specific type content that you guys are looking for. So if you guys have any requests or suggestions, please let us know. But that being said, we'd like to kind of move forward with today's topic of the first look at Tomb of Sargeras and what everybody's thoughts are, that kind of stuff. And Dusty, you are the guest today, so you have honors, my friend. You've had a limited personal experience in there, but you have had some experience. I know you've watched some of our guild streams and stuff like that. What are your thoughts here?
again, I know they're fictional characters. I got it. I don't have a problem. But the deal is that at the end of this, it's just so cool because we get a visual of Argus, and we all know that we're going there. We all know we're gonna bring the the wrath of Azeroth onto Argus, and I'm so stoked about being able to do that and to see where they take that story. But that cinematic at the end, and I think for me it's the satisfaction of the groups that I've watched kill it, just the satisfaction of getting past all of the mechanics, because to me, all of the end raid bosses that I've seen or been a part of on a LFR, basis, obviously, are not anywhere near, they're not the same fight. They're just not the same fight as they are on Heroic and Mythic. And to see the stuff that the guilds are having to go through, what you guys went through to do normal, and then moving on to Heroic and even Mythic, but just like that fight is going to be epic. And when people get him down, I just cannot wait to see their reaction in Mythic. But overall, man, I give the raid an A plus, and the cinematic at the end is just it made it all worth it to me. Ryan was talking about it in Twitch one night, and I was like, wait. So I closed the Twitch panel. I went over. I made sure I closed myself into a dark room. I watched it by myself. I took it all in, watched it a couple of times, then went back into Twitch and back into the real world. But I don't know if you guys are into story at all, if the cinematic even was something that you guys enjoyed. But for me, that made it just so worth it. I'm so glad they put the effort and the time in to make those cinematics so impactful. And the story in Legion, I think, is harkened back to, I love the story in BC. I love the story, especially in Wrath. And I think Legion is taking it back to those days.
I have to throw in a comment here. You made the comment about Khadgar and Illidan's exchange. There was a tweet coming out of Method's Twitter account, and to me it says it best. That's definitely a moment where, Khadgar's like, "What did you do?" And Illidan's like, "Here, hold my beer, I'll show you." So they obviously say it in very World of Warcraft dialogue. But yeah, that's definitely Illidan's like, "I'll show you, hold my beer, let's go."
Khadgar's still a shit wizard. On a lighter note, I have a question for you, Dusty. Seems how you seem to be a little bit lore oriented. Irish Cole, it's also directed to you. Have you read the Red Shirt Guy end boss of Legion theory yet?
I have not, but someone tweeted about it. I'm not sure who did. I was reading on the Blizzard Umbrella Twitter, somebody we follow. I have not looked at it yet because I haven't had time, but is it worth a read?
It's actually pretty good. He does do a lot of connecting dots and everything. I'm not gonna say it's unplausible. It's possible. Is it likely? It's questionable. But it would fit and follow suit, in my opinion, I guess.
I gotta listen to this. Where is this?
I have
You'll
yet
to send it to me.
It is a written document, and I'll give it to Ryan to post as well. I'll find it.
Yeah,
in a little bit.
definitely share that.
I'll include that in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely interested.
But going back to the boss, this boss is awesome. I mean, right? Like, I love the mechanics of this. I mean, just the character model for one, they did a really good job. The fight, like the staging area, you can fall off the ledge if you're not careful. You can fell rush in darkness and fall off the edge. I love that. The mechanic of finding Illidan is a new mechanic for the game, right? So I wish my spectral sight could see a demon in the darkness. It can't, but soaking the meteors and watching out for the singularities and the pillar, or are they pillars? Yeah, the pillars, and getting rid of your shadow bolts into the void, I guess. Like all of it together just, I think, made a really cool in-fight. Much better than well, I wouldn't say much better than Gul'dan. Gul'dan was pretty fun too.
Yeah. Now, I know that this is another one of the fights that there have been some 3 tank groups going into this fight with. I'm guessing you guys did with our original strat only to use 2 tanks on the kill.
Yeah.
So that being said, Dan, what from a tanking perspective here, is this a good fight, bad fight? What's going on with that?
We're ignorant with the 2 tank setup as much as I praised it and wanted more 3 tank setups when we were doing the mythic nightmare. This fight, it's very unforgiving, but
Yeah.
at the same time, um, just having a tank to soak the meteor, it doesn't make sense. Not in my opinion. Losing the amount of damage, there's no reason to have someone sit in Prot or Vengeance or any other tank spec just to do as much DPS as I do, if not less or more, give or take a couple 100,000. The fight itself is very edge of your seat. There's a lot of mechanics that as a tank you can't really see, or at least I personally can't. Um, the one that really comes to my mind is the stupid purple orb, Sanguine. What is that?
The singularity.
Yeah, singularity.
That I really can't see where it's coming from. I'm more worried about his fell claws because once I start getting those stacks, it hurts a lot. And I don't always have a cooldown for him. Having mitigation up damn near 100% of the time is helpful, but at the same time, if you watch my stream, my stagger bar actually goes purple. And that is plus 20% of my health per tick of stagger, I believe, which is no bueno aquí.
I know it's I didn't get to go in with the group. I had, I wasn't at the raid. I had some real life stuff going on. But from doing the kill I've done, and as you guys know, I tried on Sunday prior to the reset to get my kill, knowing that I wasn't going to be there. And so I've had a lot of hours on Kill Jaden, much unwanted hours, due to pugs who just refuse to stand in Armageddon, that kind of stuff. But this was where my heated discussion with somebody came into play with the whole 3 tank theory, and I told him, I was like, there's 2 things you have to remember here. There's multiple ways to do these fights. Just because you do it one way doesn't mean that your way is the end all be all, and the same goes for me. Like my way is the end all be all, but when I look at that whole idea behind using a 3rd tank so that 1 tank can soak meteors, there were multiple times where we lost that 3rd tank because they took the damage from the meteor. They're not running immunities, so they're still taking damage. They just have a larger health pool and larger damage reduction, so they're still going to take a big chunk of damage. And then, they would immediately jump back in front of the boss, get swiped by fell claws, whatever. They would die, and so then we'd have to waste a battle res on them. And it's like, okay, so we're already down a DPS because we've got this 3rd tank. That tank dies, then we have to use a battle res to get this tank up, and so we're already effectively down a player because we're bringing a tank versus an actual DPSer. And then on top of that, we have 5+ members in these raid groups that all have immunities that can absolutely rotate through the entire duration of the fight and take care of every single large Armageddon soak. So I would rather bring an extra DPS, and I would rather lose a DPS than my 3rd tank, because if you get down to the point where you have, and on this particular fight, we were only using 2 tanks and he was still trying to soak, but he was trying to argue that we needed to bring in a 3rd tank so that he could soak. And I'm like, no, I would rather lose a DPS than a tank any day of the week, because once we were down to 1 tank, like that tank at some point needs somebody to taunt off of them. And it's just to me, that was just kind of like you said, there's some bit of ignorance, and there very well might exist the possibility that in moving into heroic and mythic, the mechanics might be difficult enough that we might need to run 3 tanks. But from what we have seen, it just made 0 sense to run that 3rd tank when we can bring an extra DPS in and make sure. And I know one of the changes they made going into this week was last week their enrage timer was really long. I don't even know if it existed, but this week it is at 10 minutes. And so if you're not beating the boss before 10 minutes, you are wiping. And so having that extra DPS is crucial in my opinion. But I, like everybody else, like this fight. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's multiple phases. It's very indicative of the last boss of a raid scene. And to me, this goes back to the amount or level of mechanics that all occurred throughout the fight, like back in the BC days with Lady Vash, Illidan, those kind of fights. So I'm really fond of it. So that's
Yeah,
kind of our quick.
I can't wait for Dusty to try this one out.
No, I want to, and hopefully I can do it with you guys, because I think that it's probably fun for you guys to see a noob come in there and try to tackle some of these mechanics. But I really enjoy it, and going in there with people who I know are, not going to yell at me. It
Yes.
really makes it so much better. So it's
agree.
fun hearing you guys talk about this, and maybe in a couple of weeks, Ryan, or in a couple of months, if you guys want to do like a spoiler cast episode where we talk about the story behind it, have me on again, and we can deep dive into that stuff.
Absolutely. The possibilities of us with this show are endless, and I'm definitely excited to move forward in that regard. But moving on real quick, we're running a little long on time, like we usually do. But that's kind of a quick overview of all the different fights. You probably get a feel from all four of us in the show tonight, and our different perspectives, kind of our opinions and how stuff like that. You guys probably listening may or may not agree with us. And that's fine. If you guys feel like you disagree with some of our opinions, some of the things like that, feel free, chime in, use our email. We'll talk about it here at the end of the show. It's always in the show notes. Let us know what you think. And yeah, just kind of, if you want to talk about your experiences, that kind of stuff, by all means, let us know. We certainly love hearing from you guys. But two pieces of news we want to talk about before we wrap the show tonight real quick. First and foremost, for those of you that would like to, or already do pay attention to the Mythic World Race, right now, and Dan, I know between the four of us here, you certainly keep up with it like I do. But coming out of the gates, the U.S. guilds, we had Big Dumb Guild and Easy were really coming strong. They hit the first two bosses really quickly. The third boss came shortly thereafter, and then the fourth boss before the EU's got a chance to get in there, and then Exorcist, man, they absolutely just tore it up, went 5 of 9 really quickly, and took the lead in the world. And then Method was just kind of hanging back. I know coming into Mythic, they were sitting at like 112th overall in world. And then they today just put the pedal to the floor, and overtook Exorcist by a handful of hours easy, and they Exorcist and Method have both been sitting at 6 of 9 Mythic. So before we move on to the next piece of news, this kind of brings us, Dusty, you'd asked the question earlier where the bottleneck lies, and right now with these groups getting Mistress down and being at 6 of 9, and Cole, Dan, you guys chime in too. To me personally, this I think is where the bottleneck is. And so I think, Dusty, you had asked me earlier what I think my hypothesis in terms of the timeline before we see the last boss killed, and I said inside of a week and a half. But what are your guys' thoughts here with the race?
Go ahead, Dan.
Bottlenecking from this point forward, I'm hoping it lasts longer than a week. They've seemed to have done a better job since the whole nightmare debacle of a 36-hour, 48-hour raid. I have a lot of hopes that we're looking at a 2-week raid. I know it's not very plausible, but that's my hopes on it. I will say, for me personally, I look at the world race a couple times a day during work just to see where things are at. And this race, I have not been thrilled about, actually. It seems like it's moving very, very slow.
I
And
think that's a good thing.
yes and no.
Well,
For
yeah,
me,
it can't be like a 3-week race, right? Because if everyone's stuck on the last boss for 3 weeks, it's kind of boring. But
I don't mind the time limit per se of how long it takes to kill it. My excitement is actually going to the Method GG website and reading the articles of the kills and everything. And due to the fact that Exorcist, quote unquote, went more casual this time around, I don't know how true that is. Seems how they're world second right now. But looking at the US side, Limit usually comes out hot out of the gates. I know they've had a lot of ban hammers thrown at them between several tiers this expansion because they're just doing shady things. But Midwinter's not there. A lot of the top contenders that used to be top contenders just aren't there. All day yesterday, the only two that were there were Big Dumb Guild and Easy. I've never even heard of Big Dumb Guild. I'm glad they're out front. Easy, I've known, I think they've been around since a little before HFC. I've followed them a little bit from when one of Midwinter's rogues went there, and I just don't feel a connection to the guilds that are there. They're not the guilds, or a lot of the players are just drawn out. Like, looking at the list: Method, Exorcist, Big Dumb Guild, Pieces, Easy, Limit, Nova. Out of those, I know Method, Exorcist, obviously, Easy, and Limit. Those are the 5 that are regular tops. But we're missing all the others that are scattered through there. It's just not as exciting for me, I guess, because those are the ones that expansion in, expansion out, I just grew up watching.
Yeah, they're like your football team or your sports team
Yeah,
or whatever.
I don't cheer for sports team. I cheer for raiding guilds.
They're his nerd teams.
They're his nerd teams.
Yeah, and I know in a past episode we mentioned the Wildstar Guild making the jump into the Mythic race. I can tell you currently they they are 83rd in the world. They're 3 of 9. But I can also tell you that they were having to pug a healer on day 1 of Mythic. So they have some work to do before they are considered in the world race. Unless they just miraculously turn it on and can pass up Exorcism Method, they're not even in top 10 in the U.S. currently. So they have some work to do, and I know they had always said that they weren't going to do it right away. So hopefully they stay true to their word, and they can bring back some of the glory to the U.S. Mythic race teams, because right now the European guilds have just been dominating us. And I guess
I'm all for Strawberry Puppy Kisses.
yeah, me too. They're definitely they're my favorite.
I like that guild.
I want to give a shout out to Future. They're still in top 50, and they're not even 2 months old.
Yeah.
So I give Sloot credit for even getting that far thus far. And I know he's not shooting for world first anymore. He's shooting more for the top 10, top 20, but they're doing great right off the gate.
I just would like to see a U.S. guild that is not necessarily in the race, but they're actually a viable contender for Mythic first in the world. We haven't had one in quite some time, even though Midwinter has been up there up until recently. I don't think a U.S. guild has had a last boss world first kill in quite some time, correct?
I think the last one was
Axis of Ignorance?
LOL. No. I think the last one was Midwinter in not Siege, because Method got that one, but I think Throne, maybe?
So it's been a while.
Maybe? Let's find out.
And Method dominated that one. So while Dan's looking that up real quick, I'd kind of like to move over Cole. Before we talked out, like I said, we're getting long on time. Let's make this one quick. But there's Argus is already in the PTR. So why don't you kind of let everybody know what we do know already and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I just popped over to Wowhead to see what was going on, and it looks like PTR is up with the first. I don't necessarily think it's a zone, but maybe like first of 3 areas on Argus. I haven't read too much further because I don't want to spoil it for myself. And I don't want to read any of the story that's happening, but apparently on the PTR today, you can go walk around Argus, which is kind of cool.
Which is holding true to their claim that from day one that, with every release of content, the next content would be on the PTR the day of, right?
Yep. They said that once they release, they'll put the new stuff up. So I'm wondering how long it'll take for this content to come out. I know Nighthold and Tomb, that period between was pretty long. But with BlizzCon coming up in a few months, maybe that's when they're going to release this. So here's to hoping.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, like I said, we're getting a little long on time here. We're about an hour and a half in, so we're going to kind of wrap it up. Before we do, I'd like to say a big thanks to all the listeners, you guys. For those of you joining us for the first time today, we really hope you've liked what we've produced for you today and discussed. And even if you didn't really agree with us, we hope that it's something worthy of you coming back to keep hearing us yap about nonsense. And those of you that are return listeners, thank you very much. We're only 5 episodes in, but the show is doing very well. And you're really helping to drive the motivation for us to continue to produce content and bring these discussions to you guys. And the next 4 or 5 episodes that we have slotted in are per the requests of the listeners. So I'm really hoping we can deliver on those, and we're working really hard behind the scenes to get these interviews set up and these guests brought on the show to be, what would be the equivalent in a courtroom of an expert witness. So so thank you guys very much. And like we've always said, even if there's only one of you, we're going to continue to do this. We enjoy it and having a lot of fun. But before we take off, Dusty, thank you for coming on, man. You and I certainly have fun over at the other show. And I'm really valued your opinion today because you, like you said, you're more the LFR hero in the casual sense. So your opinion is definitely going to differ from ours. So we appreciate you coming over. But before we do take off for the day, Dusty, why don't you kind of let everybody know where they can find you elsewhere?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at TechGuru77. That's where I do a lot of stuff over there. Go check out the other podcast, Blizzard Umbrella, that Ryan and I do. If you're interested in starting or growing your YouTube channel, you can find me at YouTube Creators Hub. Other than that, I am so excited that I got to represent the casuals today on the podcast. So much fun chatting with Cole and Dan and Ryan about this stuff, and it's been fun just getting to hang out with these guys and get to know them better. And as time goes on, play some more games with them. I'm just looking forward to it.
Cool, man. Well, like I said earlier, man, I can't say it enough. Thank you for coming today. We appreciate you being here. So, Cole, Cole, you got them social medias yet?
No. I mean, maybe one day I'll do it.
You hear that, guys? For all of you listening, come on, help us push him to get at least a Twitter account. Even if he's not responding, we can give you a place to, throw nonsense his way. So, anyways, Dan, where can the listeners find you at?
First, for that rehash, the closest U.S. World First or whatever was Blood Legion in Siege. There are no U.S. Firsts. Other than that, my social media, both of them are the same, Twitch and Twitter, JacksonGad1125. And right now, I'm still trying to find time to stream more out of our raid time, but come say hi during the raid.
Well, for me, guys, personally, as always, you guys can find me over on the other show, like Dusty said, Blizzard Umbrella, where we talk everything underneath the umbrella of Blizzard, all the games except for StarCraft. Me personally, you can find me on my Twitter account, which is the same as my Twitch account as well, at McIrishGaming. You can find the show here. You can find us on our Twitter account at _TRC Podcast. You can find us also via our email, The Raiders Confessional. There's no apostrophe on the S. It's just The Raiders Confessional at gmail.com. And like I said, guys, chime in. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear. Tell us what you think you're doing right, what we're doing wrong. But other than that, guys, from me, from Dan, from Cole, and from my compadre, my amigo, Dusty, we will see you in the next raid.
Ciao.
Yeah.